Hello, everybody. It's 11:26 a.m. Central Time on the 10th of August, 2026. It is Monday here in the USA, and I hope you're doing well. We have a very large earthquake that struck down here in South America, the north tip of South America in Colombia, 7.4 to 7.5 in magnitude, as you can see it here blinking on the screen. And it is a huge earthquake. There was severe damage in the area. I'm going to turn on a display capture in just a minute, and we're going to go look things up and get things squared away on what to look for over the next several days. If you're a new viewer and you didn't know we were looking for this, let me just take you back in time. We need to go back several days, 5 days to be specific. And let me also turn on a display capture so that you can see what I see just a little bit better. There we go. So here's our 7.4, but we go back 5 days and see this big red arrow? You see where it points, right? Big red arrow pointing right towards Colombia. We trace the red arrow back and we're going to go over this way and look where we go. We go over to our deep 6.3 earthquake, which struck 5 days ago. And this deep 6 struck down at 190 to 220 kilometers deep, depending on who you go with. If you go with geophone, we've got 190. If we go with the USGS, it's more like 212 or something like that on the depth. Now, when we get deep earthquakes, we watch for shallower, larger earthquakes up to a magnitude larger to spread up, out, and away from where the deep earthquake took place. And the deep earthquake took place, well, let's get a USGS reported quake on here if I can. Let's get the USGS plate boundary map open, actually. That might even come in more handy. There we are. Go to the plate boundary map and jump down to South America. There we are. Here's our plate boundaries. And the key in the upper right-hand corner, you see subduction, divergent, other, and transform. Well, we're along the subduction zone, but then you'll see we actually have a transform fault that then goes out to a divergent fault. And then out here, west, we have a 5.5 earthquake that struck before all of this, going back to last night, same 24-hour time period. But if we carry on back over this way in a diagonal line, we go right across where our arrow is, and that's the transfer point. We watch for energy to come up on this side of the plate and then spread up, out, and away to the other side of the plate. Let me show that to you. So coming up down below Fiji, deep 6.3 below the Kermedec Islands, energy coming up, where's it going to go? It's going to go down to the south, it's going to go over to the west, and it's going to go over to the east. Not really to the north. It's a huge plate mass to the north, whereas the beeline, or a path of least resistance coming up, out, and away, goes over the Cocos and Nazca plate, up towards the north, and down towards the south. Getting back to why we have the arrows there. So when I saw two 5.6s strike yesterday, one out to the north, one down to the south, that lets us know equidistant spaced energy is spreading across the Pacific, one on the north side up here by our Leviathan symbol. The Leviathan symbol is there to symbolize a force coming up from the deep. So when we get deep earthquakes over here, we watch for shallower, larger earthquakes over here. And there it is, 1 magnitude larger, spot on, 5 days after the deep event on one side of the plate. We watch for 7 to 10 days on deep earthquakes. Now, I would like to quickly jump over, now that we have a display capture turned on, and just go over to social media and take a quick look. Now, again, I know a lot of you guys don't use social media, or if you do, you don't check X or any of these sites. But this is kind of like what we're dealing with here when it comes to damage. Look at this. So we've got falling brick. Again, when you talk about stone tiles and bricks like that, look at that, guys. Look at it. Whole sections of concrete. That falls on you, you're done. You're dead. That's heavy concrete with tile on top of it. And this goes on for a minute. Look at that. I mean, we're talking major, major damage, guys. Look at this amount of damage on this earthquake. And no, that's not AI, guys. There's plenty of other videos to show us. Look at this one. Right, bowling ball. Is that a bowling ball or a tire or something fell out of it? A car tire. I'll tell you what, you don't want to get stuck in a stone stack structure during a large earthquake. You look at that. Again, if you're in that building, look at it. Hold on, look at that. If you're in a building like this, you're up on the top floor, right? 4-story apartment building, earthquake starts hitting. You're like, huh? What? Okay, you get up, you start running down the stairs, and you're on the top floor, 2nd story, 3rd story. You're in bad shape if you're in a stone stack structure. Now, this is why overseas people are told to go outside immediately during an earthquake, because the actual structures are not built to withstand large earthquake activity like this. Stone stack structures, reinforced concrete only lasts so much. It doesn't bend much. In the United States, we're told to stop, drop, cover, and hold on. Get underneath a table or a desk to protect you from falling objects that are in the house or structure that you're in. But in this case, these kind of things falling, you'd need to be under some kind of brick hearth or something to protect you from those sorts of things. That's a major activity going on there. Major surface shaking. We're along a subduction zone, and the depth on this, well, I mean, and not on this one, but on the earthquake in Colombia, is about 100 kilometers deep. So this could have been way worse. It could have been up towards the surface. And if it was up towards the surface instead of 100 kilometers deep, we're talking about devastating damage way worse than we already have seen. And maybe even bigger magnitude. But that being said, 7.4 is nothing to ignore. Now, there's no tsunami warnings or anything like this, guys. It's on land. And we need to go pull the coordinates from whoever's got them available, and we'll put them in over on Google Earth. I already measured earlier, and this is taking us west of Nevado del Ruiz volcano. But let's go put the coordinates in and show you. Nevado del Ruiz shows up from time to time on the list. It is not on the list now. Instead, Purash volcano has been on the list over and over again in Colombia, but that's slightly different, of course. Here's Nevado del Ruiz, right here. Now keep in mind, Purash volcano is down here, and it's the one that's been showing up over and over and over again on the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center, with small blast, 5, 10, maybe 11,000 feet high blast. Now, make note of the mountain range here. I'm going to turn off all the borders and labels. We're also going to turn off the volcanoes really quick, just so you can see this. So, earthquake epicenter here. Now, look at the Andes Mountains. Goes down to the south. Of course, everybody's familiar with the mountain range down there. Or at least you learned about it in high school or grade school or something. But it goes up to the northeast and goes over into Venezuela. And it connects over this way and dead ends into the eastern edge of the Caribbean plate. And to see that even better, we're going to go back to the USGS map here. And here's the Caribbean plate. Now, the spot I just showed you, those mountains, they go up and over to the east and connect right to it. Notice, the USGS doesn't have anything there. They should. This should connect over across a dotted line should go over to the east. They got the dotted line on the north side. They should have the dotted line on the south side because this is its own plate. It's not connected to South America. The Caribbean plate is its own plate. And energy goes across this area. That's why they need to have a red dotted line there, or at least something there to indicate that there's something that is there to let the energy transfer across. It's a huge earthquake. It's the second large earthquake down in this area in the past few months. You may remember a few months back, there was the Venezuela megaquake, and that was going up towards 8.0 as well. So that's 2 huge earthquakes along this zone in the past several months. And it lets you know the plate boundary there is completely broken now. One side and the other. But then you have to go back again. What caused the last time? The last time that it broke, we were talking about a back and forth that was happening across the Pacific over and over and over again. And now a fun little fact, or it's not fun, it's actually bad news, but we went back and went through the 2004 earthquake season to look at the Banda Aceh earthquake in December of 2004 to see what led up to it. Starting in January, went January, February, March, April, May, June, July, all the way through the year. And there was a back and forth that was happening between Japan, Central America, back over to Solomon Islands, then back over to South America, then back to Japan, then back over to Central America, then back here, then back there. It was a tennis match that was going on all year long, building up to an 8.0 earthquake that struck south of New Zealand 3 days before the 2004 Banda Aceh earthquake. On December 23rd, there was an 8.0 earthquake south of New Zealand, and that had been a back and forth that had been happening for months in the 7.0 range, building up to the Banda Aceh earthquake over here, which caused so much damage in 2004. So now here we are again, and we're seeing it back and forth between Japan, Venezuela, Philippines, and now Colombia. Huge earthquakes. And this is in a short period of time, a matter of a few weeks. We went many months, if not a whole year, without any back and forth at all of any significant size. And now here we are with multiple 7s and greater in the past few months. Cannot be ignored. It all traces back to the deep earthquake activity, which is raised high off the planet here. You can see it raised. This is the past 2 days worth of earthquakes, 3 days worth of earthquakes there. You can see there's multiple deep events taking place below the West Pacific, which then, after the deep earthquakes, up above them, we get shallower, larger earthquakes spreading up, out, and away from where the deep earthquakes are happening. So if we get a bunch of deep earthquakes over here, we then watch for a spread to go to the west, to the south, and to the east. So far, south has been hit, west has been hit, east has been hit, and now we have a new round of deep earthquakes coming up now today. Over the next several days, we're going to have to watch for the next 7 to 10 days for a new increase to take place up above where we currently are. And we're already at mid-range 7 level, and we're pumping more energy into the system now with new deep earthquakes. So it looks like this coming week, we're going to be talking about even bigger than what we're talking about now. And I need to get the forecast together for the next 7 to 10 days based upon this current activity. And I'll already tell you, whenever you see activity like this, we actually need to watch something called the Antipode. So I'm going to do something here. We're going to click on this earthquake. See the 7.4, we've clicked on it. Now I'm going to press Antipode of selected. It's going to take us around to the other side of the planet. Look where it takes us. Directly to Sumatra, Indonesia. The exact antipode of the 7.4 over in Colombia is Sumatra, Indonesia, where the Banda Aceh earthquake happened back in 2004, my example that I just used. It is no coincidence that this is the antipode. Antipodes tend to be hit within about a week or less. Usually it's actually 3 to 4 days. According to professionals, University of Oregon, or Oregon State University, OSU, did a study several years ago now and published it, studying 5,000 or more different 6.0 and greater earthquakes. And they found in a majority of the time, I want to say it's over 3/4 of the time. You have to go read the study to find it, but it's a huge number that there is a connection. Antipode earthquakes happen, according to the professionals, that if you get a 6 on one side of the planet, 6 or greater, that on the other side of the planet, within a few days on the antipode, that you get a similar sized earthquake on the opposite side of the planet. So I'm going to tell you right now, we will watch the antipode, which we're already watching. But we're going to watch it even more now for a large earthquake to strike central South Indonesia, anywhere from, Bali. Well, actually, that's more than, Bali all the way over to the west to Sumatra. Worthy to note that Mount Krakatau has showed back up on the list multiple times, erupting, but they're small blasts, 3,000 to 5,000 foot high blast, over and over again. Now, you may remember Krakatau sent off that 50,000 foot high blast that sent a tsunami out from the volcano, and nobody knew that it happened, the blast. There was a rock concert going on the beaches there next to the volcano, and people got washed away in the tsunami that came over the stage. That was several years ago. Let's also talk about Japan really quick. Take a look at it. North Japan is moving now, 5.5. And that's after last week's huge earthquake in South Japan. So how many times are we going to see this? Where there's a huge earthquake in South Japan, and then a short time later, over here, we get a huge earthquake in the tennis match that happens back and forth. Now, I'm not saying Japan caused this. I'm saying the Japan earthquake that happened this past week and this earthquake here are all being traced back to our deep earthquakes. But let's go back in time. Kyushu broke apart several years ago. Huge 7.8 to 8.0 earthquake caused a surface fissure fracture in Kyushu itself. The very next day, Colombia got hit right at the Ecuador border, or Ecuador got hit at the Colombia border with a 7-point-something earthquake, upper 7, back to back. That's just one example of many. We've seen this happen over and over again. So here we are within the same week's time, so to speak, and it's a back and forth. I would expect back and forth to happen again, and for us to see a new 7-point-something earthquake to strike 2 different spots. It's going to be a busy week, it looks like. So I need to get the forecast together, get it out to the world, tell everybody what to watch for. We still have a warning going down in Southern California in the LA basin for a 5.0 range earthquake. And I'm going to have to issue a warning for the West Pacific, most likely over here, for another new 7 to strike in the next several days. This doesn't count Europe. Look at Europe and Asia. Look at the equidistant spaced 4s going all the way out to North Italy. But well, technically that's a 3, but there was a 4 yesterday. USGS ignored it. So equidistant spaced earthquakes, this gets us into like Japan. Look at our spacing on the earthquakes. There is no coincidence that they're spaced like this. This is a standing wave that's going out around the planet, and it's dropping off equidistant spaced earthquakes in sets of 3 and 4 and 5 at a time across 5,000 miles or so as it spreads out across huge regions. All right, so let's sum it up. 2 earthquakes struck yesterday, letting us know that something was on its way across, 2 5.6s. One right next to Leviathan, which symbolizes the force coming up from the deep. That's why we have it on the map to begin with. It's tongue-in-cheek reference to Leviathan. And then down to the south. So I'm not shocked today to see a new huge earthquake over to the east when we can trace it all back to a deep 6.3. that happened at the start of the week, 5 days ago. When that deep 6.3 hit, I did a live over on YouTube, which is not saved now. I guess you had to catch the live over on YouTube when I did it, where I told everybody, we're going to watch to the west, to the south, and to the east. Now to the east, it's been broke. We have to watch to the south and to the west, and if we take the south into account, that takes New Zealand into the mix for the next several days. New volcanic activity, nothing worth mentioning other than the eruption that happened up in North Japan this past week at Mount Tokachi. Of course, Mount Etna is going over in Italy. That's making the news, but those are big blasts in a populated area. Well, right off the populated area's coast, I should say. Italy's been going. Sakurajima put off a 10 to 11,000 foot eye blast. Not that big of a deal for Sakurajima in its own right, but I noticed that's all making the news. Same with Central America over here in Guatemala. Fuego volcano, Santiaguito volcano, Popocatépetl making the news yesterday. So the big blasts have been in the news at these volcanoes and now around the region, just generally speaking, to the south. Region, I mean, you're talking 1,000 miles, 1,500 miles to the south. That's where we get our big earthquake. But we cannot ignore the volcanoes suddenly putting off huge blasts in Central America. There's been a lot of movement down there. The plates are clearly shifting. I would expect the United States to start to shift. How about all those fires? Do you guys see all those out in the west coast of the United States? The whole western United States is on fire. And I decided to go look up a lot of the fires just to see what was at these locations. And I couldn't believe that most of the locations are next to volcanoes. That was actually a little bit troubling to find this out. Again, people don't go look them up. I don't know what to tell you. I did this live with my viewers. It took a while, again, but we can't ignore that the fires are breaking out next to these volcanic fields again. But let's go look at the United States and just see what last night looks like, if we can even still see it. It was insane. Yeah. Okay, so do you see all this? Here's white clouds. Let's just make sure that you guys can see it. These are white clouds. But all of this other stuff across Washington and Oregon, Idaho, Montana, all that is smoke. So in between our clouds, all of that hazy-looking stuff is smoke from the fires out west. Look at it. I'm going to get a better zoom on it from out west just so you can see it. But these fires breaking out next to these ancient volcanoes. Look at it, guys. That's insane. To have all this be cloud and all this be smoke, the whole United States is getting covered in smoke from this, but look out in Oregon and Washington, Idaho and Montana, Wyoming and Nevada and Utah and Colorado. That's next level smoke. But the volcanoes. What's up with that? Well, we go up into Canada. Look where we go into Canada. The fires in Canada. Right here, getting covered by cloud in last night's imagery, unfortunately. But you can see it. All of that. Those are all volcanic groups. So if we go look up any one of these, it's not even up for debate. They really are ancient volcanic fields next to all these. You just have to tell me that for some reason they're all burning. Like that there's, some kind of fires that are breaking out there somehow. But this whole area in Canada is nothing but a bunch of volcanic groups. The Chilcotin group, the Bridge River Cones, Mount Meager, and the fires all the way around it. As we go down to the south, the same thing. It's all volcanoes. It could very well be that there is a heat surge that comes up below these locations, which then heats the ground and releases methane. And the methane then comes up and moves a little rock, and next thing you know, you get a spark, and you get a fire breaking out on the side of a volcanic field from a burst of methane that comes up from a heated plate, from heat that's from way far down below as the magma chamber slightly shifts, from the seismic wave that comes through. It's like a Rube Goldberg of events that must take place for this to happen. And it happens all times of year. It does not just happen during fire season. I would think it during fire season when it's really dry, that when it bursts forth and releases a little burst of methane and a spark and a little flame, that it becomes much more easy for that to start a massive fire. And when it happens at non-fire season, it still happens and fires still break out, but they don't spread as far because things are wetter and there's not as much dry, warm air and blowing wind. And that could be our explanation for why these volcanic fields are getting hit. It would make sense. Biological matter down in the plate gets heated. There's pockets of methane. Heat rises. Then there's a burst of methane. And normally nobody would even notice it. But if any rocks get moved, any pieces of shale scrape against each other as that burst happens, all of a sudden you get a spark and you get a fire. Suddenly breaking out on a clear day next to a volcanic field over and over again at times when this plate's under seismic stress. We're going through major seismic unrest and all of a sudden a bunch of fires break out again. Doesn't matter what time of year it is. I think I'm going to need people to start being able to put two and two together without some professional coming on and telling you. Because there's no way they would ever come on and even admit that this is even possible, let alone that it's actually happening. So let's sum it all up. Big activity is taking place. There's our large earthquake, 7.4, across from our deep 6.3. Time difference, 5 days. We're not done yet. We watch for 10 days on deep earthquakes. So we are halfway through the watch on this deep 6.3 over at the Kermedec Islands. And we already have one shallower, larger earthquake across from it on the opposite side of the plate, right at the tip of our arrow. I would expect New Zealand and over to the west towards Indonesia to both go. New Zealand down south could be big. Same with over to the west, over to Sumatra. We could be talking about 2 large earthquakes in the next week or so. One down by New Zealand, the other over by Indonesia. That doesn't count the 5 that we're looking for down in LA. Is that large? Not. I mean, a 5 in LA is noteworthy. It's enough to knock things off shelves. It's enough to send news anchors diving underneath their desks. But it's not normally enough to knock things down. If we go any bigger than a 5 in LA, then we're talking a big deal. But I'm looking for up to 5. So it could be 4, 4.5, 4.9, up to 5.0 in LA. Maybe wrong entirely. But it doesn't look like it. It looks like the whole plate's getting ready to go in the United States down south, and it's looking like we're going to go over in the West Pacific next. So I'd like to remind everybody to have a plan. You need to know what to do when an earthquake strikes. You need to, of course, take shelter underneath a table or a desk if you're in the USA. If you're overseas and a big earthquake is hitting, you saw those buildings. There's no way you're getting out of a building if you're in a 4-story stone stack structure and a huge earthquake hits. There's just no way. Unless the building's just completely earthquake-proof and they've gone way overkill on making these buildings stand in the United States. But, well, I shouldn't say overkill. They've gone to great lengths to make sure that the buildings in the USA will withstand 7.0 level activity, according to what I've heard. So any new structures on the West Coast United States, for instance, you live in a high-rise. Chances are the high-rise will stay standing. There may be broken things all the way down on the stairs as you go down, but you'd still stay standing. Overseas, down in Colombia, same building, fallen over within 2 seconds of the frickin' earthquake hitting. Are you kidding me? Dude. Right? So, much love. You need to have a plan and know your surroundings. Now, I've never seen an earthquake video where the people are running around outside with their emergency kits, helping each other, and having things on hand that they need. Instead, it's usually a bunch of people screaming and looking confused. Probably I'd be doing the same thing, screaming and looking confused. But if you have an emergency kit and you can grab it, you should probably put one together. Change of clothes, set of shoes, flashlight, batteries, first aid kit, sanitation, maybe a little food, prepackaged granola bars and high-energy fruit wraps, that kind of stuff. Stuff that stays good for a long time and gives you high energy. Protein and sugar is what you want on day one of any kind of disaster. And then after that, long-term stuff, the food, the water, that's long-term. Weighs a lot. Usually you can't grab it and take it with you. It has to just be in a spot in your house or your apartment. I'm just reminding you, you need to do this stuff, guys, for real. Nobody's going to do it for you, and if you're going to wait for the government to save you, remember Katrina? You're going to wait, if you're here in the United States, you're going to wait for the government to come save you. I don't care who's in charge, whether it's Trump or Biden or Obama or Bush or whoever. Good luck waiting for him, man. I've learned my lesson about relying on the government for anything, let alone help. Jeez, they can't even collect money right. Like, you're trying to give them money, they still won't take it. So just make sure that you're covering yourself so you're not a liability for other people. I'm saving this as a video. We're going to put this out over on YouTube. Bring everybody up to speed as to where we stand on seismic. Look for a video from me, a forecast, in the next day or less, most likely today or tonight. And I'll put that out on YouTube as well so that people can watch it back and know where we're watching. Yeah, Nixon. Somebody in chat just said, "What? Look at the screen in the right-hand side, lower right-hand side. What about Nixon?" Oh, God, we can go on and on about Nixon. He's a crook, obviously, right? Like, not too smart, right? The only thing I like about Richard Nixon is his quote about the Bohemian Grove. Go look it up. Go look up Richard Nixon's quote about the Bohemian Grove, which is a secret society place that all the men of the secret societies once a year go to Northern California. They've done this for 150 years. They're doing it even right now, probably. No, not probably. They really are. Up in Northern California, and it's an all-men's club. And there's Richard Nixon. He had something to say about the club that I can't say on my stream. The only good thing the guy ever said. Anyway, you here for earthquakes or you here for secret society knowledge, right? Like, we'll do a separate stream on that later. No, I'm not in one. No. I had to learn all about them because I came under extreme attack by them, so I had to learn everything. 11:55 a.m. Central Time. I'm saving this now. Much love.